Everybody, welcome back with the Plat. Today we've got a special guest, Showtime Doctor here. Welcome to the channel.
Hello, sir. Thanks for the invite.
Is this your first time on the channel?
I think technically, yeah.
That's right.
You've had a couple of my videos, but
we
yeah.
did the Vulcan podcast together with Sorta Convallaria, but that was on his channel. So this is a bit of a downgrade for you. You're used to the bigger names, but that's all right. And hopefully I'll be showing on his channel at some point in the future as well. But basically, this is a very, very experienced gotcha player, at least when it comes to the games I care about, Sorta Convallaria and now Girls Frontline 2. And when I say experience, that might be an exaggeration. But when I
Survivor.
Yeah, when I've played 0 and you've played more than 0, you are now my sensei in this regard. So we're going to talk about Girls Frontline 2. I figured like, hey, I know someone that's played this game. I haven't played it and I plan on covering it. So let's just kind of mini podcast, kind of just hang out and talk about the game. So I guess first, how much time do you actually have in the game, would you guess?
So I went through the very hard process of actually signing up for the Chinese server. I didn't get into the beta, unfortunately, for the English side, but I played it about a month and a half is right where I was at.
Okay, that's even longer than I was thinking. Yeah. So you had a pretty consistent. You've dropped it for now. Now that Global's coming out, I presume.
Yeah, it's a week left for Global, so I'm just waiting for that.
So you have about a month in the game. That's good to know. Are you planning to play Global?
Yes, definitely.
And are you going to be making content for it, do you think?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we link all your stuff down below then as well. So if you want secondhand content, you come to me. If you want the primary source, you go to Showtime.
You'll work your way up.
So what was kind of the pacing over the month? Was 1 month in, did it feel like, because obviously there's always the honeymoon phase in every gacha where you're playing it, you get all the resources. Did everything really like slow down, or did it still, even though like the resources are going to slow down, was it interesting after a month? Did you still feel like you had stuff to do?
Yeah, I definitely had stuff to do. They have a whole lot of maps that it's just not your typical run and gun. There's various mini games depending on the event. Of course, there's lots of events, and they have 3 different modes from normal to hard to a little more extreme. Boss battles, you can use your fringe units. And as far as slowdown goes, I didn't really feel slowed down until I got to about 60 something.
Okay.
And yeah, so overall, at first it was kind of like, oh man, I'm not getting characters because I can't reroll the account because I don't want to go through the whole thing again. But eventually when I started getting the good characters, I was like, whoa, okay, I'm getting this now. I'm getting into this now. And I really like the system.
Was there any, I get, one thing I'm kind of interested about is character progression systems. Is there like, I assume it's not like Sorta Convallaria because it's like a 1-of-1 game where it lets you grind 5-star of any character you get a single copy of. I assume you actually have to pull each additional copy in this game.
Yeah, there were character shards, but I never got enough of them to actually see what they would end up doing because I think it was a different purpose than what it normally is in gacha. But yeah, 6 copies for characters. Every time you get a copy, it upgrades one of their skills or their passive. And as far as character progression, there's a leveling system. There's a whole thing with your gun. There's different guns to equip. Guns have their own gacha, but from what I saw, it's not really necessary to pull on it if you don't want to.
It seems closer to the Sorta Convallaria, but maybe not quite as bad.
A little bit, yeah. And then they have set bonuses too, like little accessories for the guns, like a scope and a muzzle and that type of thing. Okay, so there's a full elemental system too.
So it sounds like the characters. It might be like a Honkai Star Rail kind of equipment system where you have like your trace or whatever the equip, but then you also have like the 4 gear slots that have set bonuses that can give you extra bonuses. Okay. And so that'll be a big part of the grind in terms of end game power, probably.
There was also a passive tree. You can farm a certain amount of this material to upgrade, and upgrades their base stats, and then it actually unlocks these little, I want to call them like power tokens. Your character can have up to 3 of them, but essentially it modifies the skill so that now it does 2 of it instead of 1, or there's an additional modifier to it.
Well, that sounds...
And you can kind of customize that way.
That sounds super fun. So there will probably be a best in slot, but I like when there's things like that because it means that there's this is a off, this is like a budget version, right? Like maybe you can't do what's meta, but maybe because you don't have the bet, you know, she's not at 3 stars. So because she's at 2 stars, you actually want to use this other accessory instead. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun for that. And also, I do have your video playing in the background. I don't think you can see it because I'm not sharing my screen, but if
Oh yeah.
people wondered why there was a big scary man saying happy Halloween, you know, that was that's because we're just playing his video in the background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also it opens up the, hey, I don't have to play meta. There's something I just really enjoy having on my character, a certain type of team, and I build the characters this way, and then off they go, and it's just kind of fun to do. And also allows you to adapt too, in case there's something like a particular boss of the week. Oh, this is actually really good for him, so you just stack it and go.
Do you think that there's going to be like account specialization in the sense where some accounts, like it's just low spenders, whales will do everything, but like low spenders, you're like, all right, I have more of like a boss focused account based on the units I pull and things that I upgrade versus, you know, obviously
Mm.
PvP versus maybe other types of content in the game?
Yeah, I could see that. The bosses, from what I saw, I wasn't able to completely master them because they also have hard versions, and I just wasn't high enough level to qualify for it.
It's also probably hard when
Um,
you can't read most of the skills in general,
yeah,
right? Like they've got
yeah.
very specific mechanics, I'm sure.
I had an OCR reader, and it took me a while to figure out one of the mechanics. You have to actually physically stand in front of a thing to block it, so the boss doesn't get a buff. But it
Okay.
also opens you up because you don't have cover, so you really got to be confident in your skills and stat abilities to actually tank it.
Okay. I mean,
So
that's so how many bosses did you end up coming across in the game?
there were three from what I saw. There was the regular boss, and then there was an additional farming thing because they drop certain things. So you want to farm a certain boss for a certain thing, so you could actually just go to the boss, even if it wasn't the boss's week, and go farm it,
I
which
wonder
was
if
kind of cool.
I mean, of course there'll be a point where they get boring probably, but
Oh
still
yeah,
at a it could be like for if you're kind of like me and you like when you go all in on a game early on, it's really fun to like beat the hardest boss with like the shittiest team that you can manage to still beat
oh
it with.
man,
So that might be a
yeah,
part that's really fun, you know, to min max the boss where it's like, look how hard this boss is. Just kidding. I'm using this F tier character, you know.
yeah. The hardest boss I fought was kind of like it was a big thing in the middle, but it had a bunch of little arm parts surrounding it. You had to go through to actually get to the boss to DPS it. And you could take them down, but they'd come back after a couple rounds, so your DPS had to be pretty gnarly to be able to even damage the boss in time.
Got it. So it is. I
Yeah.
mean, of course they're going to have DPS checks, and they're. I mean, it's this is a gotcha. They are just they are putting artificial walls up, and then over time they push that wall back. You know, through more progression systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you dabble in PvP at all, or was it not really your
Yeah.
thing?
I couldn't tell if they had like a live PvP system. They had your typical like ranked PvP.
Where it's
It
versus
was
AI?
yeah. The maps were actually pretty cool. I did enjoy the maps. They start you on one side, they start them on another side. There's cover everywhere. There's certain little explosive stuff and that type of thing. And you basically just had to figure out how you were going to approach them. PvP points, they give you a little bit of like the pay currency for pulling. And then there's a whole lot of shops. There's one thing I should say. So you know how usually there's an event shop for most gachas, right? And you
Yeah.
farm the currency. They probably have like 5 or 6 different ones just for the various map types, not even counting the event. And then
Mm,
there's a couple for the event. So there's all types of stuff to farm. It's crazy.
got it. So yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to compare to sort of Convallaria, right? There's like the tower shop, there's the
Mhm.
friendship point shop or whatever, like the guild
Mhm.
shop. So there's like there's like a bunch of those. Um,
Mhm.
that those are always fun to have, but usually the first month you're trying to figure out what's worth a damn, and then the second and third month you're just waiting. Why won't this refresh so I can get the things that matter? But
Yep.
um, because like there'll
Yeah.
always be some trap. This is the thing about gotcha games that I hate is that they fill them, especially in new gotcha games, that there's like a minefield. There's so many ways to use your limited resources in dog shit ways where you're like, this is just terrible. Like this is objectively going to make your account weaker. I spent all my currency on gold, which I don't need until I'm level
Yeah.
75, and it's like, but the game doesn't warn you, right? The game just lets you do that. So
Yeah, I've fallen into those traps many times.
yeah, me
No,
too, man.
no.
Sometimes they're really bad. Other times they're like all right, it's not that big of a deal, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was actually one of the ways that you could farm the legendary weapons in this game was through those shops. So
Okay, that would be great
good
because
stuff.
there's always going to be something that you're not like in sort of Convalaria. Yeah, you could get your characters up to 5 stars, but you can't target farm any trinkets, right? Which can really help unlock
Mhm.
characters' powers. So a lot of
Yeah,
people just don't have the good trinkets. There's still
yeah,
trinkets I don't have.
That's been
Um,
bugging me in that game. It's
and
like
so
1% chance.
and also the trinkets are just like really, really, they're very stingy with them. You get like 3 a month or 4 a month or something. I don't know. Like you get like one a
Yeah.
week or something. Um, so it's kind of every game is gonna just kind of shift where the power is locked behind paywalls. And I would honestly, I think I would prefer the character dupes being locked behind paywalls in a sense, because I right now in sort of Convalaria, there's cope. People are like, you could farm every character up to 5 star, and I'm like, technically on an infinite timeline, but you can't. You're not going to be
Yeah.
able to farm them all up to 5 star before EOS, even if it's 15 years from now. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen because
Yeah, with double dual banners, 5 characters at least a month. Good luck.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense because every time you get one copy of a character, it takes like 120 days or something, right, to get them up to the. Or I guess it's like what 150. I don't know. Point is, it takes over 100
It was around
days.
100, yeah.
Yeah, it
Around
takes them. It
100.
takes them about 100 days plus to get them actually up to 5 star, and you're getting like it just. That's a long time. By the time you get that character up to 5 star, like I almost have Coco up to 5 star. She is like 8 characters ago, 9 characters ago. Um, Not to mention if you ever want to get any of your baseline, like I'm going to get Garcia up to 5 stars, but it's
Yeah.
anyway. Anytime people are like, yeah, but you can't farm dupes in this game. I'm like, yeah, but the farming dupes is like it lets people cope, thinking the game is 100% free to play when it's impossible to get all the characters because still day one someone's going to have a gust at 5 star. In 100 days when you have a gust at 5 star, there's going to be a more powerful gust probably out. So anyway,
Most likely, yeah.
that's a sort of Convalaria tidbit here.
Oh, I'll give you the combat is fairly similar to Sword of Convalaria. Of course, there's guns and explosions instead of sword spells. There is elements though. Some of the characters have elemental systems going,
Yeah, so
and there's a full like turn take back the same way Sword of Convalaria has. So
two questions. One, I want to cover the elemental system, but two, the take back system. Is it infinite or is it like sort of Convalaria where there's a certain amount and then a paid for an additional?
I never paid, so I'm sure they probably add to it, but it was 3 just like Sword of Convalaria
Mm,
for the base. So 3
okay.
times every map.
It's a great system and a
Mm.
tactics game, but 3 always felt so low in sort of Convalaria, especially when I had 12. Because sometimes I just like, especially when I'm making YouTube videos, I'll redo the same turn like multiple times in multiple ways just to get footage for like a video or something.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like that drug dealer mentality of first one's free.
yeah,
Here you
exactly.
go. Wouldn't you
Um,
like 12?
so what are the elements that you're aware of in the game? There's got to be
So,
fire, but
yeah, there's actually a lot I wasn't able to figure out about it, but let me say first, when you actually get to the point where you can farm elemental systems, there's not any BS as far as like, oh, you get random stuff No, you can set down, I want to farm fire, and you'll get fire. I want to farm ice, and you'll get ice. So that's really cool in that game.
okay, that's
Um,
good.
it's a 3-set system, so various add-ons to your gun. And usually it's just a straight damage amp, so it'll be 20% bonus to fire. There was fire, lightning, ice. There was a physical bonus. There was some type of like psionic-y kind of bonus that I didn't quite figure out. And there were like 3 other sets that I think it had more to do with passive than actual active damage. So
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff there to unwind.
I wonder if the elements are going to interact at all, or if it'll be purely more of like, oh, this enemy's weak to fire, or this enemy is immune to ice, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
I didn't notice that, to be honest. I didn't notice any type of interaction.
Maybe it's just going to be
Uh,
some additional, like a lot of games, like, oh, you do fire damage when they're on fire, they take additional fire damage, or when they're on ice, they have slower movement, or they act a little slower in a turn.
yeah, it could
Um,
be. They had a system where it's like an armor system, shred. So eventually you're at 0 armor if something hits you enough,
okay.
and you're broke for a round, and then that's when you do all your big DPS moves, and they can do the same to you. So
Do
you
you
have to be
skip a
careful.
turn when you're broke? Is that like a stun?
No, you can still go. Yeah, there's
Okay.
stunts and stuff in the game, but usually you can still go and hide or heal or whatever you.
Got it. It must be a pretty significant damage increase when you run out of that stuff, though.
Yes. Yes, it is. You'll definitely get one shot if you're not careful. Cover can be blown up. There's all types of bad situations. People flank you.
So I was told this game is like sexy XCOM. Is this game actually like XCOM in its systems, or is that a little bit of a loose comparison? Obviously, not from a
Um,
strategic standpoint, where the meta of XCOM, where you're on a thing going around saving the world, and it's like you're building your base. This is a gotcha. So the meta is gotcha, but the tactical aspect with the
yeah,
action
I
point.
remember I only really played the first XCOM. I played a little of the second. First XCOM, if you were patient, Overwatch was your friend, and you could
Yeah,
basically beat almost any map just moving a square at a time.
yeah. They
Overwatch,
fixed
for those who don't know, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say they fixed that in XCOM 2
Did they? Okay.
by forcing you to extract on maps, so you had to keep moving because Overwatch
Uh,
is overpowered. But yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, essentially, it was like anything moves, you take a shot at it before it does whatever it's do. In Girls Frontline 2, there's actually a character. She was my first SSR. I think her name's like Kwa Jin is her name. So there's a certain buff that you can stack that it adds to your counter attack and your follow up attack, like a team follow up kind of thing.
Okay.
So when you're breaking things, it actually helps a lot because everyone's shooting. So even if it's like the horrible medic that doesn't do that much damage, she's still breaking 2 or 4 armor every time she's hitting. So there's a whole lot of that with certain characters, and that's actually what I found to be the strongest thing in the game early was just follow up and counter attacks. So if you can get people that have those buffs and they're in certain positions, that's actually a really efficient way to play the game.
That's funny. I've looked at 2 tier lists trying to kind of get my mind ready for some content. And the
Mhm.
character I think you said is the only character that was at tier 0 in both of those tier lists. They were like, this is the best character in the
Yes.
game in
Yes,
terms
she
of single
is.
target damage.
Yeah. I don't think she's available on launch, but her name's Kluka. She has like a baseball cap and then she rides a motorcycle. Just
That's
God here. If you want to farm, that's the unit to do it. AoE farm.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
so I guess what are some of the things that you really liked about the game, and what are some of the things that maybe you didn't like, or I don't know. I mean, maybe you just didn't understand, but you're allowed
um,
to say you don't like certain things about the game too.
yeah, for sure. There is a lot to do, which is both good and bad. It depends on how you play and if you got the time to do it. As far as like farming, getting gifts for people, there's a whole relationship system, but not like sexy. It's like, hey, it opens up dossiers and you can actually read about the character and see their background. And they have like little date things too. I didn't really click on any of those to be honest. So for all I know, it goes pretty crazy on those.
Yeah,
But overall, the presentation of the game, you're gonna get that, oh my God, she has feet. Oh my God, she has blue hair, and that's great. Whatever, floats your boat. But
it's so
overall,
etchy. I think the term is
yeah,
etchy. Is
there
that
you
it?
go, yeah. Yeah, and they have summer skins and all that, so that's all there for those people. But the presentation of the game was actually pretty professional. The storyline's very much serious. The guy, as far as I could tell with the translation, he's not like some like just met girls 5 minutes ago. Like it's not that type of thing. And as far as what I did like, though, there was always something to do, which I generally appreciated. As far as like the passive farm system, you actually build kind of like a passive farm, so it increases not only all your stats passively for all your characters, but it also increases like an income for all the currencies, and you can exchange things to buy a certain currency.
Ooh, I
And
love that
so,
idea.
yeah, that was actually really cool. And then the map types you might get kind of annoyed because there's a lot of course, your basic like run and gun stuff, but there's also like a top down mode. There's a Nike mode, like we were talking about. There's all types of little mini games. They had like a platformer, a dance game, one of these, and there's always stuff like that, like something new to do in case you get bored.
And
But
you
some of the
there's
maps are kind of like capture the flag, hold and defend. So there's all types of.
I love alternate like win conditions besides like, oh, kill all enemies. As long as I go into it. Sometimes I go into a story mission and sort of Convalari and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I just want
Yeah,
the
right.
rewards. Oh, I gotta kill this guy and it changed. But if I go into a mission like, oh, this is a capture the flag thing, like that's fun. Different change on it. As far as the
Yeah.
mini games, there's gonna be some sort of currency you get. Like, all right, hey, you get maybe 50 poll currency or something if you do this once a week or something, just because they don't want it to completely flop. But
Yeah.
also,
I will
probably maybe
say
they don't. Maybe it won't flop because everyone wants to play the neat game mode. They're like, oh yeah, my waifu.
yeah, the only thing I kind of regretted was I never played much of Girls Frontline 1, so I saw a lot of people in the forums, they were like, "Oh, it's back. Oh, look at how she changed." And I'm like, "Ah, man, there's there because I don't."
I mean, you could still download it now, I guess,
Yeah,
probably, but
right.
it's
I'll read the
probably
wiki.
it's a very very different game. This is definitely more of a because
Yeah.
Girls Frontline One seemed like a totally different genre, other than the girls with guns vibe. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
overall, it feels like a if one the game seems like this is the only gotcha game that I've played that I'm about to play that seems like it cares as much about guns as this game in the sense that yeah, everyone
Mm,
uses guns, but like you look at the guns, you see the models of the guns, you're using different attachments on the guns. It
mm.
feels kind of like a gun nut kind of friendly game in a sense. You could be like, oh,
There's
look how cool this P90 is or whatever.
there's some really interesting guns, but they also have a lot of like little goofy, like you can have like a keychain kind of thing instead of a trigger accessory, and just all types like a banana.
All
There's
right.
all
Well,
types of weird
I'm
stuff. But
excited to
yeah,
have a bunch of dumb stuff as well because I always like. So my least favorite thing about games like this is always the characters. Like I just don't care
yeah.
about 30 similar looking skinny females. Like they're all just like white skinny
Um,
females. Like maybe they're not all, but like in a lot of times, like I like it when there's Guzmans. In Street Fighter, I
oh,
like my
gotcha.
favorite character is Rufus. Like I like the characters to be really, really different. Like
Rufus.
Overwatch is a great example, right? They've got like the Tracers, but then they've got Reinhardt, then they've got Roadhog. Like, there's a lot I don't like about Overwatch,
Yeah.
but character designs is not one of them. I love like a huge, diverse cast of cool, interesting, and wacky characters. But
I'll
this,
defend them a little bit because, of course, it's all girl characters except for your guy and occasionally other side characters, but they make them different enough that it feels pretty good in my estimation, as far as like character type, what motivates them, how they play, that type of thing. There weren't really too many similar characters
no,
that I
I believe
saw.
it. I mean more from a archetypical visual standpoint. Like they all
Mm,
kind of fit a similar description of like attractive woman, basically, which is fine. I love having attractive women in video games, but
mm.
I also like having really fat, weird dudes that roll around like and flatten people, and I just like having all kinds of wacky stuff.
I agree with that. Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
still good game. As long as all I really care about is that the gameplay is fun. The
Oh,
boob jiggle physics can be what they are, as long as when I'm playing the game, it's got rewarding tactical experience for me.
by the way, normally I'll give y'all an insight to me. Normally, I kind of roll my eyes when I see like a cat person in a
Yeah,
game. The cat person in this game is a badass. I was actually really impressed. It has like a little chain gun. It
that's
runs
what
around. She has poison. She's really nasty actually as a unit.
there are.
So,
Also, I will say there are male characters that have this issue as well for me. Like I was playing Ash Echoes,
mm.
which it just didn't vibe with me. I'm just not playing it anymore. But
Yeah, I
there
didn't like that one.
I
Mm.
just didn't like the gameplay, which is what it comes down to for me. But it was like one of the very first things you meet this like bunny eared guy or whatever, this cat eared, fox eared guy in like a suit, and I'm like, oh, let me guess, you're the hot one. And he's like, oh, then he punches and fire comes down. He has this cool scene. I'm like, I get it. I kind of had the eye rolling thing, like, God, just like, can there be? Not everything has to be sexy in that typical anime sexy way. Can't there? Where's the Rufus? Street Fighter had it right. Where's the fat guy with the,
Yeah,
ooh, I want
yeah.
that kind of
It's kind
stuff.
it's really hard to explain to people because we're older, but like I have to say I miss when characters were just characters and they didn't really necessarily fit an archetype. Like it was just like, oh, that's Megumi or that's whoever. And she's really cool and you can find her sexy, find her attractive, but it's not like there's a carbon copy of her in every other game and anime and etc.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
copied somehow.
like
I miss
who,
that.
like when I look at Final Fantasy X, which is doesn't have any fat characters still, which I love fat characters. They're like always my favorite. But it's like
Yeah.
Waka, and Titus and Auron. are all just like in Kamari, like, they're all just super different, and they're not just like clear, copy pasted with different colored hair and different outfits from other games. Um,
Yeah.
which
Arn
and
was one of my favorites, man.
Aaron is literally the coolest person to ever exist in a video game, and he's
He
only
is,
rivaled
yeah.
by Jecht, who is in the same video game. It's like they're the coolest. They're like no game has made a character as cool as Aaron, and I don't think they can. I don't know how you could. Batman is
Arn's
less cool,
awesome.
and Batman's cool as shit.
Yeah. No, Arn was really fun, man. Had a
I
very good time with that character.
my dream game is that they make a prequel to Final Fantasy X with Jecht, Aaron, and
Ooh.
Baska. I cannot remember Yuna's father's name right now.
I think it was Vasco, yeah.
And then you just get to play their journey, and then maybe they add some stupid fucking twist that everyone like, oh my god, but in Final Fantasy X that means this. They could retcon something to justify the story, but just like I would have so much fun. I just want to play as those three dudes in a Final Fantasy X-2 thing. They're just using dress spheres,
I think 10 and 8 could benefit from some prequel
I
stuff, I
Final
think.
Fantasy VIII is one of the greatest video games of all time. Almost no one ever agrees with me, and I'll admit when it comes to pure RPG combat, I think that it is not as good as 7 or 10. But I think when it comes to customizing your team, it's about as good as any of them. But
Yeah, I have plot issues with 8. I think the first CD and second CD are great.
I
I love the Laguna stuff. That's actually my favorite stuff.
I have almost nothing negative to say about 8. I do think like yeah, maybe when you go to space it gets a little silly, but
It's all good.
I still find it a lot of fun though, man. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
Laguna.
it was a fun game. I love the characters. Yeah. So,
All right. Anyway, back to Girls Frontline 2, a game that's going to surpass Final Fantasy 8 in both of our minds.
of course.
Yeah, I mean there's a big butt skin on the screen right now, right above my head. It's like right here, just big old ass cheeks. I'm like,
Yeah. I'll give you a couple more things I
okay,
found outstanding about it. You can grind a lot of the skins. When I was on it in that month and a half, there were 5 skins you could grind, including a couple for new characters that were coming out that were pretty good. And they're not like, like, oh, here's a apron or here's a jumpsuit or whatever. It was like, no, these are like legit high tier skins that they sell in the shop that are actually pretty awesome.
that's really cool. I'm hoping, yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm hoping like they keep the sexy cosmetics, the ones you have to pay for, and then they let us get the cool ones, the ones that like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 costumes for most of the characters because eventually there's a point in the plot where you unlock a certain. It's kind of like the SWAT set for most characters,
Okay.
and yeah, that was really cool. And then let's see, I actually was vibing with the story. I gotta say, I won't do any spoilers or anything. And of course, this was on the Chinese, so it's not guaranteed to be the exact same in global costumes and stuff. But some of the cutscenes were just like, wow, this is actually really good. I'm getting into this. Like it wasn't just, oh, we're here, we did a thing. Oh,
Woo, ooh, woo, Commander.
yeah. That Sephiroth got us again.
Damn it. All right. Well, overall, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what the game is like. I think we've covered at least a little bit of all aspects of the game. Is there anything else you want to add before we go that players got to know, other than, of course, to watch your stuff? I'm sure you'll have guides or at least
Yeah,
fun
I'm
things
gonna
coming up.
fire it up once we get a little bit closer here. I would say, just as a tip, there's gonna be currency that you get from certain things. There's like a reputation currency, and there's also the currency you get for dupes to like SRs eventually when you max them. That currency, make sure that when you go to the shop, you're saving up for the legendary weapon. Don't get into the other stuff because you're going to be tempted to get like the summon currency and some of the other rewards. Save up for those legendary weapons because those are really hard to get.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you're a whale. You can do whatever you want.
If you're a whale, and in fact, if you're a whale, I encourage you to spend your currency on everything besides the good stuff. That way you have to spend more to get the good stuff and keep the game even more healthy.
Yeah, but just have fun. Just have fun is what I say. Also, I'm usually a re-roller. I'm probably not going to re-roll in this game because two of the main characters.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you finish.
I was going to say 2 of the main characters I was using the whole time is the basic healer that you start with and the basic tank that you start with, both storyline characters, and they were perfectly fine. So all the way up to 60 something.
There are multiple guides for this game, like beginner's guides and stuff. All of them emphasize do not reroll. I don't know why. I feel everyone that plays a gacha, one, if you can't reroll in the gacha because it's so time consuming, then I would be that just puts a bad taste in people's mouth. People automatically assume greedy company if you don't let me reroll. Like I'm going to spend hundreds of dollars, but I can't, save $50 on day one or whatever. Like people just get mad about that. So I hope you can reroll.
You can reroll, yeah. The reason I say that is because A, like I said, you can play through with most of the characters, but you hear that a lot. B, the gacha system's actually pretty forgiving. It was 80 pulls before you get a SSR versus 100. And every time I got that SSR character on the banner. So I don't know for sure if it's a soft or hard pity. I think it's a soft pity. I just got really lucky.
It's a soft. It's the Genshin system. So you got the 50-50 and then guaranteed.
And then they also have like a basic banner that has its own currency, so you can farm for that and pull on it, and it's fine. And then they have the weapons work exactly the same way, towards 80 pulls. So if you really want a weapon for a character and you got the currency to do it, you can conceivably get the item pretty quick. Oh, and you can also select on the basic banner when it shows you, I want this character, I want this weapon.
Okay, so, I mean that's all pretty good stuff. Yeah, I don't know why all the guides say not to reroll. They basically just said that they're generous with the currency early on. That is a moot argument because you can get what you want and then still be generous with the currency. So it's like,
they're pretty generous overall with the currency. One thing also, there is a lot of stamina refills in this currency. Like, I think it got into the double digits. It was like 18 or 15 or something. So.
Is there a what was I gonna say? I already forgot what I was gonna say. It probably wasn't important. It was important, but it's just a dumb game. It can't be that important.
Right.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we're hitting about 30 minutes here, so it's probably good for us. And if you want to do more of these, absolutely, I will. I'm hoping I could show up in his channel at some point. He has a podcast type show as well. I'm just gonna yell at Dotato like, "Why am I not sponsored? What the hell? I gave them your name." No, I didn't. All right.
Yeah, there's a thing there.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm all set, and I think sorry, I like giving you the last word. Anything you want to say?
Oh, sure. If you've never seen me before, I'm Showtime Doctor. I got my own gacha channel. Been covering gacha since, for those of you that were around, Knights Chronicle days back in 2015. So we kind of take a different spin on our channel. We do guides and stuff too, but it's also about the vibe of the game and how it's going. We look at the health of it, and we try to go into the issues of, okay, the players could really use this, the UI could really use this, and that's kind of where I come from on my channel. So if you're interested, check me out. And of course, hang out with Purplatypus as much as you can. He's the man right here.
Absolutely. And if you guys look on the screen, I am subscribed, and you could probably go into his channel. I watch all of his videos, so I think you should as well. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus, and I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!
Girls Frontline 2, it's when I unite.